Good evening. Happy New Year from Worldwide Football. As always, I'm your host, Connor Projuelo, here with my co-host, Matthew Rothman. And today we brought on a very special guest and a new member of Worldwide Football. I'd like to introduce to you our old friend from middle and high school, John PapaJohn. Yes, his last name is that
Oh,
long. Would you like to introduce yourself?
yeah. Hi, I'm John. Really big Chelsea fan over here. Sucks that we lost today, and we lost a really good manager. I also really follow Olympiacos just because I'm from Greece, and that's the team I grew up watching. But here in the United States, no one really ever cares about Olympiacos, so Chelsea it is.
And exactly, which is fantastically that because John's first video is exactly what we're going to be touching on, and that is basically Chelsea's big run of form, which has been lack of a better word, ass. Blue truly is the color, as is your emotions, because it has been nothing short of just absolute depression and sadness. It seems like
Yeah.
ever since the Barcelona game, it just really hasn't been clicking. And now with the news that Maresca was fired, and now they bring in some random ass dude from League One that manages Strasbourg just because yes, you want to continue to cook the books. Where exactly does Chelsea end up going from here?
Well, we saw today with the massive protests against Baghdad Iqbali and yeah, the co-owner for Chelsea. I guess he's part of Clear Lake Capital. It's this partnership between Todd Bowley and Baghdad Iqbali. Um, and as much as I think Bowley can be clueless at times, which he is, there's no shortcutting that. Um, Baghdad Iqbali has now had so many different just fallings out. He had a falling out with Todd Bowley. He didn't like Thomas Tuchel and sacked him prematurely because he wanted his own guy. He brought in Graham Potter, who was a total clown who just could not manage the egos of Chelsea. No offense to him, but he was a really good manager for Brighton, but that's about his cap. He hasn't really done anything since.
Yeah, he got fired at
Um,
West Ham just this
Yeah, I
just
got
a
fired at
couple
West
yeah.
Ham
just a few months
today.
back.
Tweeted.
I mean, he then brings in Pochettino, who, although I have my gripes with him, he did pretty solid, especially towards the latter half of the season that he was there. Got rid of him because he had a falling out with him, and now had a falling out with Enzo Maresca, who was already linked with going back to Man City to replace Pep Guardiola. Um, so I mean, it gets to the point where it's like, what more proof do you need that it's not is it really all the managers and the players that are having the issues, or is it this one guy who's egotistical who has a shit ton of money, who's the co-owner of your team?
What's
Seems like
interesting though is that,
I'll
like,
let you go, Matthew.
especially when you look at ever since Bluko took over for Roman Abramovich, when he was basically forced out due to all the politics at the time. And it's sort of interesting the fact that since Bluko took over, it was during when Tuchel was in his second season. They let him go a third season. You know, basically first month of that season, you know, whether I guess they didn't like the results or whether they didn't like some of the losses he had. I know the last loss was against Dynamo Zagreb, but the main thing is that when you look at that whole thing, they've had four managers, four full-time managers in that span. Maresca has the most matches among those managers at 92 since Bluko took over. Not a single manager has reached 100 games in all comps, which does tell the story. Probably more of a Bluco problem. Where do you, I guess, stand on that in terms of like ownership and what that has caused in the sense with Chelsea as opposed to when Roman was there?
I mean, at least with Roman, he didn't tolerate mediocrity, right? At the first sign of trouble, he would fire someone. I think Iqbali is just he has an ego problem. Roman Abramovich knew when to put someone who knew what he was doing and actually cared about the team in charge, right? Roman saw Chelsea as his own personal like pet project. He didn't see it as a way just to make money as Iqbali did, and still does clearly. Um, Iqbali thinks that he knows best, which personally I don't think that he does at all. You can't just go through four managers in 2.5 years, right? And expect good results. I mean, you were getting somewhat decent results in Maresca. I know we've had a terroristic December, which is the MO for Chelsea the last how many ever years I've been alive at this point.
Happened last year too, and they
Mhm.
lost a ton of these bad teams when they easily were quote unquote in the title race, except Maresca said he
Every
not.
time
So
we're about to be in the title race, right, or we stick it to Arsenal, as we did a few weeks ago, then December hits around and it's a giant turmoil dumpster fire. Um, But yeah, I guess on that note, right, we saw with Manchester United, Ruben Amorim, right?
No.
He just took one look at Chelsea. He's like, all I have to do is insult upper management and say that I'm the coach or that I know what I'm doing, and they don't. And that's how he got fired instead of just being an absolute terrorist for Manchester United.
Ineos and Agbali going ego for ego. You gotta love it.
For real.
which one's more egotistical might be the biggest question at this point, because
Hmm.
like they basically done the
I
same
mean,
thing for the past
I
like
mean,
4
four
years.
managers is a pretty big number when you really deep it. And Ineos only just took over the club like a few seasons ago.
That is true, yeah. Because they
Yeah.
weren't under Ollie, so it would have been just Ten Hag when they had him.
I will
And
say, John, do you believe in the notion that Chelsea is starting to become run more like a business than an actual football club with the way they manage the money, the ludicrous contracts they hand out to players that probably most definitely don't deserve it? With the most recent hire now, because you guys are going to have him until like what, 2032, I believe.
Yep, five
yeah,
and a half year
that's assuming he's
contract.
not stacked by the end of the year.
That's exactly it's like, will he even make it? And then by the time that happens, you know you're gonna have to pay him out for the rest of the for the rest of the rest of the length of the contract. It's like we've seen this time and time again.
I mean, they
It's
signed
really not
Maresca to a five
sustainable,
year
isn't it?
contract.
And he only lasted a season and a half.
I mean, truth be told, there were rumors that he was again in talks with I think Man City and a few other teams, and part of his contract he had to report it. And I don't think Igbali liked that he was basically being undermined. At least to play devil's advocate, but no, this is 100% on Igbali. You just can't go through four managers, right, in 2.5 years. You can't sign a million different players who don't fit your manager's scheme, right? You can't tell Maresca, for example, hey, these are the only players you're allowed to play, and you can only play them at these certain times because that's what our data scientists and our medical staff deem, and basically have no control over the substitutions. We saw this season, right? Maresca making some pretty, let's just say, lousy substitutions. Like we saw that with the Manchester United game. We had Sanchez just do the dumbest thing I can think he's ever done, which is surprising because it's Robert Sanchez. Um,
You never know
right,
what's
gets a red
going up
card
there
and
with him, do you?
Pretty known
you
for
really
those
don't.
mistakes too.
Um, yeah, we see him just absolutely take someone out in the fourth minute, gets sent off. And speaking of sending off, Cucurella got sent off today. It's like what,
Yes, the
seven,
rage
eight red
baiter
cards.
himself finally got the karma he deserved.
I mean, he bitched the guy for Barca, the little young dude,
Uh-huh,
Lamine Yamal. I
yes.
forgot his
Yes,
name
he
for a
did.
second.
But the biggest bet was that game was the one that got sent off that night, and then he decided to claim mental health and take a road
Oh,
trip to and take a
jeez.
trip to fucking Tel Aviv of all places.
You
If it's not Ter
know,
Stegen, it's Araujo that are the biggest terrorists in the club. But we're not here to talk about my club. We're here to talk
well,
about
Ter
yours.
Stegen, for example, he's not even the starting goal anymore. You guys have
Ter Stegen
Royce
Yahoo.
Jeez.
Oh, well, wasn't it you the other day who said Pedro Netanyahu against Man City when Enzo Fernandez scored a last second goal to make your team drop points and give Arsenal a bigger lead?
Yeah, yeah, I did, and I still stand by it because he was still ass again today. You don't know what you're getting with him, John. I don't know why a lot of Chelsea fans seem to rate the guy. I can't. Like on the days where
Okay,
he's good, he's class, but he's just way too inconsistent. He's like another
Yeah,
version of a faster version of Ferran Torres, who I already scrutinize enough.
well, I mean, who else do you really have in that gene pool of talent, right? You got Alejandro Garnacho. Exactly, right? Um, you have Gittins, who's been invisible all year, and you haven't
well,
even really
Gittins we
played.
knew. I mean, at least on my end, because a lot for Dortmund last season, he would show up a lot in spurts, but then like his overall gameplay for the whole match wouldn't be particularly great. It was just he had
He would
moments
start
where he
and
would
fuck
either
off.
score assists or maybe provide a dribble, but then he wasn't good. So that move to the Premier League, I always thought was a bit premature, and it's showing already.
I mean, up top you have uh, what's his face?
João Pedro.
No, oh, well, yeah, João Pedro. He's also been flashes of really good and then non-existent. I was thinking the Lap, who's been
Who just
invisible.
scored today his first EPL goal with Chelsea.
Yeah.
That's a
Let's
miracle,
see.
huh?
We have Cole Palmer, who's been injured the vast majority of the year and just been out, right, with injuries and just the injury bug with his groin and his hamstring.
Yeah, the
Um,
pubalgia, I believe.
and then you have Estevao, right? And
As a
Estevao,
kid.
sure, he's good. He has a lot of potential. He's still 18 years old. He's still getting used to the Prem. I'm not going to give him the excuse of Liverpool's what $130 million Florian Wirtz. Um, but he still needs time. He's still trying to adapt to the pace of the Prem, and I get that. I think he does deserve and should get more minutes. Once he can at least get with the physicality, because he looks like he would just be knocked off the ball, or he would try and take that extra dribble instead of making that pass, and that comes with time with just learning the Prem. Other than that, who else do you have? Mikhailo Mudryk is still a giant question mark, and it's not like he's been particularly great. Um,
Yeah, well, Chelsea's biggest strength is to me is the midfield. Caicedo's still one of the best defensive midfielders in the world, and
Yeah.
Enzo, well, you kind of have your hit or misses with Enzo sometimes, but he's still a very good midfielder on his day. Your defense, as you know, apart from Reece James and Cucurella, your center backs are terrible, and your goalie is a hit or miss. And now you have
yeah,
a manager who may or may not, most definitely, probably will be out of his debt, managing a team full of egos with a very egotistical board. Is there really anything to look forward to for the rest of the season?
I mean, listen, we're not Tottenham here. We still have
That's
Champions
fair.
League football. We're
Tottenham's
still
in
in the FA.
Champions League, to be fair.
Hmm?
Tottenham's still in Champions League, in all
Oh yeah, I guess they
fairness.
won
Yeah.
the Europe. Okay, sure, but they're not going to do anything.
Yeah, we all know that, but they are in Champions League.
My boyhood team of Olympiacos is on the Champions League. They're not going anywhere. I mean, they got robbed by Barcelona because of a horrendous referee, bogus red card. Still
Okay.
mad about that. I
Six
mean,
one.
I don't know how
Nope.
Barcelona keeps finding the money to pay out referees when they have no money to
What
pay them
money
out.
we broke? We're
See,
begging Ter Stegen to go
that's,
on loans just so we can register Cancelo.
I guess
that's
that's
my
where you
point.
spend all
How
your
are you
money
guys
then.
how
Just
are you guys
that.
paying off referees if you guys pay off your own players?
Look, don't
I
blame
mean,
me. Don't blame my club just because you got screwed by UEFA. You got screwed by the Madrid game as well.
okay, either UEFA really, really hates Marianaki, or or Barcelona paid off the refs. It's one of those two, and it could be a combination.
Hey, for the record, the Negrera allegations are only for La Liga. They have nothing to
Hmm.
do. That has nothing to do with UEFA. That's a whole
I mean,
other topic if you ever want to
and
get
then
into
yeah,
that.
the right
But
back Rodinei just could not hold Kylian Mbappe's jockstrap. As unfortunately as what it is, Kylian Mbappe's arguably the best player in the world at the moment. I mean, there's
well, I mean, he's up there, but you'll have a lot of Madrid fans constantly, in a civil war with who's the best
sure, but
player and who actually deserves to be on that team.
the market value for Kylian Mbappe is almost double of what the entire squad value is for Olympiacos. So I
Sounds
mean, the fact that Olympiacos competed, it was 4-3, and they were pushing for the attack, and they almost actually tied it up in the end. Um, that was a big game. I know
Feel
the
like
other
that's
big.
more on like how terrible Real Madrid's been, I guess, in that stretch. But
well,
yeah,
because we
I
have really
mean,
no structure. I think my last point I want to bring up is for Chelsea, considering that we saw the campaign in the Club World Cup and how, where it's really started to click, or at least at the time it was starting to click. And even towards the beginning of the season, where Chelsea were damn near almost competing for first, what in the world do you think happened to where it just completely collapsed? Because at one moment, Maresca looked like it was getting it right, and then all of a sudden, Palmer with his injuries, you know how important Palmer is. He's your best player in the team, and then just going forward, it's just even with all the names that you have, it just really was not working out to the point where you started dropping points. I stood by my statement when I said that this is still a mid Chelsea side. We just made them work world class because at the time we were in such a terrible run of form and because Araujo's retarded. But it's just crazy how much you've fallen off to the point where now you're below Man United in the table by 1 point. But.
I mean, we've seen our glimpses of being elite, and we've seen our glimpses of being a disaster class, right? December, the entire month of December, just that's a disaster right there, right? That's Axel Disassi level ass, um, just gone, right? Yeah, we've seen our glimpses. We've seen what we can do as a team, right? We've also seen that upper management gets their grubby little hands in there, has their own ego, has their own problems, right? We saw that with Maresca. We were questioning his substitutions earlier this year. Um, well, it kind of got leaked that he wasn't in charge of substitutions. He was told from above who he's allowed to play and when. I mean, that's just egghead being egghead.
Chelsea are not going to beat the puppet manager allegations, which is probably what this guy with this Rosenir guy is going to be, to be honest.
Rosenier's going to be a houseplant. He's going to do exactly what he's told, and the moment shit starts to go south, he's going to be canned. Again, we've seen it over and over and over again now with four different managers. Tuchel was like, "No, I'm not going to be a houseplant," and immediately got fired. Right? Graham Potter was a disaster class. He couldn't handle the egos and having 45 different active players on the roster um, because of just Bali making a bunch of signings on the data science without actually passing the physical eye test. All right. And by eye test, I mean you can look at a player and you can be like, okay, this guy is not going to be something that you want on your team. He's not going to be caliber for your team. For example, look at Madueke, the player for Arsenal. Really good on the ball individual talent, horrible locker room cancer. And ultimately, that's kind of why he left, right? Is he wasn't going to fit in with Estevao and the rest of the team. He had problems with Nico Jackson and Cole Palmer in the past in the locker rooms.
And also the penalty incident. That was still
Exactly, right?
funny.
The penalty fight with Nico Jackson and Cole Palmer. It's like Cole Palmer clearly is the penalty taker. He hadn't missed all season. He was like 19 for 19, right? Like, why are you adding extra pressure on him? Just give him the fucking ball and let him take the penalty,
Say what you
right?
want about Nico Jackson, but when you look at his numbers compared to the forwards you have now, it's like how do you downgrade from Nico Jackson where like you say what you want about his finishing, but at the very least, like he brought something like at least team worthy wise. Like his link up wasn't the
And
worst in the
Jackson
world.
was also really good off the ball as
Hmm.
well, which he has shown at Bayern. But it's like I feel like João Pedro is one thing, but it's like seeing the lap. I think one thing I've seen him struggle with is like his off ball movement. I think
That
hasn't been the greatest.
that's the thing, right? Like Nico Jackson will get himself in a position to score and then miss. The problem with the lap is that he has all the talent in the world individually, but off the ball, he has no idea what he's doing, where he's going, and he can't even get in positions to score. I mean, the lap, if you were to just have training cones out there with Nico Jackson, the lap's going to score 9 out of 10 times over Nico Jackson. That's subjective. But Nico Jackson to get into a position just like Timo Werner or Morata would do. Again, it's the same thing with Morata and Timo Werner, where they just couldn't finish to save their lives. I think it's the opposite problem with the Delap. He can finish, he just can't get in the position to finish, especially in the Prem. And we saw that when his team got relegated last year, he barely ever had the ball. And granted, it was a team that got relegated, but I mean, there's only so much you can do if you're not getting the ball. Um, he essentially, when you're playing with the lap, you're almost playing with 10 men. In this case, nine, because we always have a red card. We've had 7 red cards this year.
I bring that up. Yeah, it's been a weird run of former red cards. It was funny you bring that. You funny you bring up Morata and Timo, your former strikers. I was thinking of two other former Premier League strikers, one of which was one of yours, which was Giroud, and also Darwin Nunez. And you can say what you want about Nunez with the same reasoning about his positioning, but also his dog awful finishing. But the fact that when you also have an elite attacker next to you, Mohamed Salah, they actually had a super good connection. Say what you want about Nunez's misses. But the his link up and the connection, the chemistry that he had with Salah was fantastic. To where his off the ball movement would have freed him up more space and to be able to make the goals, score the goals that he did. He had incredible numbers last season. He doesn't have those runners anymore at Liverpool, a bar Ekitike, and also now because he doesn't really start and because Liverpool are just ass
He's
this
injured
season.
too.
But yeah, you've seen that. And with Jackson, he's like, I would say Jackson would have been a really good utility player, and it had to be utilized with more, I guess, better personnel around him because it's not like the wingers you currently have or anything elite wise either. Bar Esteval, but his, that's more of a potential elite than like an already like class winger.
Sure, but
And of
he
course,
still
yeah,
had Cole Palmer, right? He still had elite center mids in Enzo Fernandez and in Caicedo, who say what you want about Enzo being inconsistent at times. At the end of the day, he always puts in a shift. Um, I mean, there's really no replacing either of them. Lapia's always hurt. Conor Gallagher got sold to Atletico Madrid to balance the books, right? You have this Brazilian kid.
I think Santos, I
Blank on his
believe.
name. Yeah, Santos, Andre Santos. He looks like another player that we have. Like almost identical, like basis wise. We have Andre Santos, who just no offense to him, I don't think he's ready for the Prem yet. Every time I've seen him play, he's always losing the ball, or he would just have really poor decision making. Um, he has potential. He's still young, sure, but I think he needs to go out on loan back to Strasbourg or somewhere else. I mean, we bought a second team for the sole purpose of shipping our disappointments to there and basically using that as a game of like surgery, right? Where we would take all their best products and then ship them all of our clowns and make them make do with that. And I mean,
That's the
Strasbourg.
Blueco network. Just ship
Although
all your
granted, Chelsea had that same model with Roman when they had the deal with Vitesse that would send their academy or their French players on loan. They did that with Mason Mount until Mason Mount
Yeah,
eventually broke into the team, and then we all know what happened. He ended up winning
yeah,
the
that
Champions
was that
League.
was a Frank Lampard moment right there. That's true. I guess with Vitesse, they had another Russian oligarch owner that was friends with Roman. Um, so I mean, there's similarity there, sure. But we flat out own Strasbourg. I mean, we literally brought Rosenier over, right? Just bring it over. It's the same with Man City and their MLS team, where they can just poach MLS academy players, bring them up to their training squad.
That and Girona. Keep in
Um,
mind they
Yep.
also own
yeah, they
part of
have
Girona as
Verona.
well. That's where they got Sabio from, even though he's been kind of cheeks this season.
Um, I mean, there are talks that Bluco want to buy a team in Portugal as well. But I mean, look at Strasbourg. They're in seventh place in the French league, right? Chelsea, they're in seventh place in the Prem. I
Who's
think,
seventh in Portugal? Let's check. Because
yeah,
clearly we
They
have
love
a
the number seven.
yeah. Um, like, clearly, I think there's just disagreements with upper middle management and upper management itself. I think with Clear Lake, it's fractured, right? There were reports last year that Bowley and Igbali never talked to each other. Bowley, as much as, again, we like to clown on him for being an American who has no idea what the fuck he's doing. Um, he has the Dodgers, right? And he knew, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. Let me put someone who knows what the hell they're doing, give them money, and tell them, okay, build the team and give them some time. I think Bowley actually wants Chelsea to do good. I think Igbali purely only cares about the money, and that's where they've clashed in previous times. I think both of them are signing off on different players without consulting the other or without agreeing on which is best for the team. And that's a problem because if you're having fighting, you know, with your two owners up top, it's going to be nothing but a like an umbrella effect that's trickling down to the rest of the team, and we've seen that. So I mean, at this point, Rosenier, there's nothing he can do other than just be a houseplant and then get fired at the end of the year, like we know it's already going to happen, right? What's next? They're going to take Frank Lampard again to be the manager,
oh
because he's
goodness.
doing good at Coventry. It's going to be the same thing all over again. I mean, you get to the point where, if you keep doing the same thing, expecting something different, that's just insanity. Um, I don't think my team honestly can push for anything until that gets sorted out, right? Like we saw with Roman, he was a no nonsense, no BS owner, right? He was a Russian oligarch, um, who sold the team now, and I think only recently, Prime Minister Keir Starmer of the UK, love him or hate him, I think most people still hate him, um, released the funds to, I think, back to Roman so that Roman could go donate him to some Ukrainian charity. But again, with Roman, he had Marina Gretzkovska in charge, and basically, right, whatever Roman said, Roman win, right? The team would go exactly the way that Roman wanted it to. Now we have it where we have Bully and Igbala that are fighting, and no one knows which is what. It's almost like two divorced parents, trying to get custody over a child. Um, and it's just you're just playing that game internally, and it's causing problems, and it's pretty evident.
No, that's fair. So it comes down to egos, comes down to structure, comes down to how players are being utilized, and of course you have your fair share of injuries. Basically, it's a mess. It's a
Exactly.
pretty decent mess. I mean, granted, it's been 1 month. We hope to see some kind of change in the new year. Who knows what Rosener's going to do? I can't really say too much because I've really never seen Strasburg play. So
Yeah,
all you can really do is just hope for the best at this point.
exactly, right? I mean, we can come into it with an open mind. Callum McFarland was the interim manager, somehow didn't lose to Pep, which is his greatest achievement because beforehand he wasn't even allowed access to the training facilities. Um, I mean, um, then he lost to Fulham today, but can you really blame him on that? Cucurella had a red in the 22nd minute. Um, and then they scored a goal back, right? To level it up 1-1. And just at the end, ultimately they succumbed, they fell down. But I mean, yeah, our best center back in Colwell is injured, right? He's out for the rest of the year. He tore his ACL. Um,
Yeah,
He's a
Axel disaster is a disaster class.
disaster.
He's not gonna play.
Badia
He's
show's been horrendous as
Badia
well.
Stile has been terrible. Tosin Adebayo has also been atrocious. It's like pick your poison with those two. Echampong is still fairly young, still has a lot to learn. Isn't gonna make those rookie mistakes, I guess, but he has a lot of potential. Um, I mean, we saw it with Liverpool, right? Reece James had to play center back, and we've seen it recently last month with Reece James playing center defensive mid, or now playing right back where he normally plays. And so, I mean, we just that back line needs to be sorted. I mean, we saw Maresca exactly this literally a few days ago get fired for going to the board and saying, "I need a center back," and the board telling him, "No, you need to win." But at the same, sometimes you get to the point where you can't fix things if you have a broken wrench. And that's kind
Yeah.
of what was happening with Maresca. He was told to be a houseplant, and Maresca didn't like that. He had a clash of egos. Maresca wanted a center back, and Egbali told him to fuck off.
Unfortunately,
And
not
that,
everyone could be a Hansi Flick who can work miracles with a shoestring budget because we're poor. Anyways, John, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the team. And thank you everyone for joining us on one other new episode of Worldwide Football. Happy New Year. Look forward to making new content with you. We got one more guy joining us eventually. We have the Arsenal fan that will be joining this team as well. So you'll have a lot of fun with him, John, and so will you, Matt, because you always have something to say about Arsenal. But thank you guys
Yep.
for joining us. Have a great rest of your night.